Sorry about that. I was muted. Cool. Well, I will do that intro again. It's probably on average once a week we have at least one technical difficulty, but we're working through it. Welcome everyone to the Great Debate. Not a debate where both sides work to defeat one another, rather a debate where both sides work to find common ground on the most important issue of our time. Today, a new topic, an important topic. Today we discuss veganism. On one side, you will have vegans saying that consumption of animal products is immoral, and it is a moral imperative to either eliminate or greatly reduce the amount of animal products we consume. And on the other side, you will hear that it is healthy, natural, and delicious. Is there a common ground that can be found? Today, we find out. Before I introduce the guests, I just want to remind you all that we do this every Thursday. We have other shows throughout the week. Very exciting content going on. If this is your first time here, please like and subscribe. If you really like what we do, we have a Patreon. Patreon is a way to support us monetarily. It could be as little as $1 a month, and that really helps us create more content. So all support is greatly appreciated. You can find links to our Patreon and to all our other social media platforms in the description. Without further ado, it's a great pleasure to introduce my two guests. On my top left, Julian Melcer, a climate entrepreneur, social activist, and animal lover. He has been vegan for 8 years and competed in the Israeli Ninja Warrior. It's great to have you here, Julian.
Great to be here. Thank you so much.
And on my top right, Tobias Stricker has a Master of Science in Physics and a Master of Business Administration. Currently, he's a full-time dad. Due to continuous worsening health conditions, he started to dive very deep in the science of nutrition in 2014, and as a result, he started the Anti-Vegan Facebook group, which now has over 800 members. Tobias, it's great to have you here.
Nice to meet you.
So let's get right into this. Julian, we'll start with you. Let's first clarify what it means to be a vegan.
So veganism is a philosophy that leads into a lifestyle, and in the simplest terms, it is a lifestyle that says that we should not treat animals as commodities, but as individuals with rights. Mostly, veganism talks about diet and the food that we eat, meaning no eating any type of animal products. Meat, dairy, eggs, honey. And also, other than that, it also expands throughout other subjects like entertainment, for example. Zoos are not considered vegan, or circuses where animals are being used. And also clothing, something like leather, fur, and things like that. Anything that comes from the animals is not considered a vegan product. And yeah, that's pretty much the definition of veganism.
Thank you, Julian. And just to add, because I do want to give Tobias something to respond to. You view consumption of animal products, unnecessary consumption of animal products, to be immoral, correct? Julian, this is a question to you.
Sorry. Yeah, I heard Tobias. My bad. So, of course, any type of violence that is inflicted unnecessarily and that is not needed to do so in order to survive, I think it's immoral type of violence. And the main part is that we live a different life today than we lived thousands of years ago, and humanity is always changing. And part of the change is expanding our circle of compassion to reach more and more places. You know, back in the day, white people didn't have compassion for black people. Today they do. So I think as part of humanity, we are evolving to a place where we are able to include all beings in this certain type of thing called moral life.
Thank you, Julian. Tobias, so the floor is yours to explain why you don't think it's a moral imperative to be vegan.
Okay. First, I would like to say what I see. Vegans are very compassionate people, very ethical driven people, and this is what we are sharing. I'm in the same way concerned and compassion also to animals and all living beings. Environment, and so on and so on. So there's no separation between these two groups of people who eat meat or who not eat meat. This is the first thing I want to say. The second thing is I believe this view is very oversimplified and has a view of natures like from a Disney movie, Disney cartoon. Lion King or something like this. And this is what I also hear in this statement. Not very much more at the moment. There is no suffering of animals in the world. Always when we eat, then we are killing animals. Even if you just eat as a vegan, you're killing even more animals than I as a meat eater. Because on a field, on agricultural field, there are living thousands of animals, and you kill them just to produce one species of plant. And this is at least 25 times more animals are killed for a vegan diet than for a carnivore diet. And this is my first response to this.
Okay, so pretty much your point that you made is that by farming vegetables, we kill more animals than by farming animals.
Yes.
Could you explain to me how that works? Do you have any numbers to back that up, or how does it happen that we kill them?
Yes, I have numbers. There are studies who calculate the amount of animals living on a hectare of field. It's, for example, in average 6 hamsters, up to 1,000 mice, moles, rats, all kind of animals, rabbits, deers, wild boar, all this kind of animals are living in fields, and they are killed on purpose and to produce the food for the plants.
Okay, so I have 2 points for that. The first one, would you agree with me that cows eat more plant-based food than the average cow eats more plant-based food than the average vegan in the world per day?
Yes, they eat grass.
Yes. So actually, most of the cows in the world today don't eat grass. The most commonly fed food for cows is actually soybeans, which you need to plant and grow and farm. And that farming, like you said, also causes a lot of damage. Like you said, the farming itself is what kills so many animals, but actually the animals that we grow need a lot more plants to eat than we do. So a lot of animals are also dying in the production for the food for the animals that we eat. The second point, I would say that there is a pretty big inherent difference between killing animal accidentally while making space to grow vegetables than an entire industry that the whole meaning of the industry is to create product out of an animal that needs to die. So there is a very big inherent difference in, I'm driving my car and accidentally on the way, I run over a dog because I was going to work, to actually running a dog fighting business. You would agree with that, right?
Yeah, this is right, but they are not killed accidentally. All the animals I just mentioned, they are killed on purpose. And for example, mice and moles and a hamster with a very slow killing poison in the millions. They kill them on purpose. They are hunting the rabbits, the deer, the wild boar, and they are not accidentally hit by a bullet. And this is complete nonsense. And the second, about the fodder for the animals, it's a completely not knowledge what they're really giving to fodder for the animals. Only 8% of all what the animals get is specially grown for them. All the rest is basically grass. I can share a table. If you want to share screen, I can show you.
You can do a screen share. You will see on the bottom you have a screen share button.
Which I have to share screen. Then I can just show you this. You see it?
No, not yet.
Okay. What? No.
Yeah, it popped up and disappeared. So do whatever you did again.
Okay. Maybe I put it on the other screen, then you can. Yeah, you can see.
Yeah, I see it here.
Now you can see in detail what is what the animals get on fodder, and you see it's the half is just grass. Then you have leftovers from the harvest for corn and so on. Only here 8% fodder crops. This is specially done for the animals. Even the grains are low quality grains which you cannot use for humans to produce anything as food. And so you see this argument that we are having agriculture because of the animals is not true, simply not true. It's just we are using what we are producing in agriculture, the leftovers we are using in the fodder for the animals, so we produce extra food instead of just throwing it away, basically.
Yes, I mean, so I do apologize if the soy wasn't right. I do know that it's one of the most commonly, and I'm sure also this graph doesn't, really show all the cows in the world. In certain places, they eat more grains than grass, because in a lot of places they just don't have fields with grass to eat. So in some countries, it's a lot more grains than grass. Maybe in Europe it is a different story, and it might be.
No. This graphic is for the world. It's from the FAO. For all livestock. It's not a selection. And when you say we are growing something, then it's, for example, the corn. We are giving the whole plant of the corn, not only the seeds. What humans are eating, we're giving the whole plant, and this is a very huge amount of dry matter you're giving to the animal, and not just the little corn.
Okay, but still, I would say, there. How many humans live in the world today? About
7 billion.
7 billion. You know how many land animals we feed for food today in the world?
Oh no, not the actual number.
You wanna take a guess?
Don't know. Something like the same range.
Same range. So at least 50 billion land animals. At least 10 times more. So when you take, like, for example, let's take 10% of that. 10 billion cows, or 5 billion cows. 5 billion cows, each cow eating so much more grains that 19% that you show in the graph is still an enormous amount of resources. And taking the whole thing and saying it's only 19%, and it's not a lot, but for almost 100 billion, even more of land animal, that 19% is so much resources that we could take for humans instead of for cows. And other than that, also you have a question of water. Like those cows drink water, and those grains need water, right?
Yes,
but so I just don't understand why we use 19%. And I will go on the minimum of the graph, 19%. So 19% of food for more than 100 billion of animals, that is just enormous amount of resources. So I just don't see how that graph makes it any better, seeing how still there's enormous amount of resources that are used in an industry that is built around killing living beings.
No, you misunderstand.
So-
The 19% was the leftovers of the production. If you produce corn
19%?
for 19% is the leftovers. 8% was specially grown for the animals. So it's just 8%.
Wait, what does it say on the bottom? Crop?
Fodder crops is
So
8%.
Tobias, can you send the chart over just in chat, just so we could see the sources that you're using? I think it will help.
Yes, I can give you later the study where this is coming from. But
Oh, you only have it in a. If you could put it in the private chat, it would just give Julian and myself the opportunity to just look at it.
Yeah, I can do. But I have to search it out.
Okay. So I just want to put clarity out there that there's kind of two separate conversations. One of them is the concept of resources, of if raising animals requires many more resources than it does to just raise plants. The other is, and they are somewhat connected, the other is, are more animals killed on a vegan diet than on a meat-eating diet? So I want to talk more about the second argument, because that's kind of what we started with. And I guess, Tobias, I'd like to hear more from you, because some of this is new information for me. What's the process? You mentioned that mice and boars and lots of animals are killed. Can we talk a little bit about the process in how they're killed, why they're killed, and for what crops they're killed, just so we could have a better understanding of what exactly is going on?
Yes. Basically, agriculture is meaning killing everything on a plot of land to raise just one species of plant. This is agriculture. And to protect this harvest, the farmers are killing on a regular basis everything what is really literally living there. All kind of animals who are naturally living there. Mice, hamster, moles, rabbits, steers, boars, whatever you can imagine on wild animals who are living normally in this area is killed to have this field.
Do any farmers kill animals that might endanger their cattle and livestock?
No, actually not, because there are no animals to really threaten the stock. We have in Europe now wolves again, and the farmers are really not happy, but they are not allowed to kill them. So actually, it's not done for
What about to
raising
protect
animals.
the food grown for animals?
Yes, there they apply the same principles than in all the agriculture. But I'm not saying that I'm not killing animals. I'm saying I'm killing animals for food. But you are pretending that you are doing no harm to animals. The point
So
is,
I've never said that I'm not killing animals. My lifestyle is not perfect. Veganism is not saying we are perfect and we kill zero amount of animals, but we are making a constant effort every single day to actually invest in products that are not made out of animals. And the main difference is that when you are protecting your crop, it doesn't mean 100% you every single day you will always kill other animals. But when you are creating meat and dairy, for example, you will 100% need to impregnate the cow and separate the calf. So it's 100% probability against a somewhat percentage of probability that you need to protect your crop. But still here, you also need to protect the crop for the animals. So I just see it as the argument that you are making for how vegans are not perfect. So you're saying, because you're not perfect, then veganism is flawed. But I just don't see how making an effort to create the minimum amount of suffering that you can in the Western world, in the way we live today, and saying, well, because animals die in the production of this food, to protect it from going bad is the same, or if not even worse, than actually supporting a business that relies on animals dying. You understand the difference?
Yes, I understand you totally. The problem is farming, agriculture is killing industry in itself, because for every one, as one study was showing, for 100 kilogram of protein you produce, you kill 25 times more animals than for producing animals to eat, actually. And this,
Look, I
so
really need
you are
to do some kind
producing
of researches
more.
about that, because it really doesn't make any sense to me, since you need to protect the crops for the animals. Like, if you can give me numbers, then I just don't see how it makes sense. If you need to do the exact same things you do for vegan food, you do that for
No, you don't
crops.
do the same thing
Why not?
for animal food. The
For
point
animal
is,
crops. No, for the crops made for animals.
yeah, but first
Do
thing,
you do
it's
the
only
same
8%.
thing?
It's first thing is only 8% of the food of the animal.
Yeah, but again, animals are more than 100 billions. Humans are 8 billion. There are more than 100 billion
Yeah,
land
but
animals
the
that we use
most of
for
these
food.
are chickens,
That
so they are.
10%, huh?
But the most of these numbers are chicken, so it's not the big animals which are in this huge number. So they also need much less food.
Well, how many cows
because
are there? How many cows are
uh,
there?
some millions.
Millions? No, let's check how many cars are there actually. How many
Yeah,
cars?
someone can do. Yeah, but it's not going around. You're killing 25 times more animals than someone who is eating just meat, and this is the
Do you
point
have
in
any
this whole
research
discussion.
to back that up? Like,
Yes, I have.
so I just don't understand how that makes sense. If there's 1 billion cows, also let's say 1 billion cows, and each cow eats a lot more cattle, or a lot more crops, than the average human, and also the average vegan. One cow eats a lot more than the average vegan, more crops. And there's 1 billion, I checked it, there are 1 billion cows, 1 billion cows, and also there are billions of pigs and billions of chickens, but 1 billion cow. Each cow eats more than a human. So by your logic, to protect the crop, we need to use for animals. We are also killing an enormous amount of animals. So the killing is doubled, because you are, one, killing the animals that you need to protect the crop for the cows, and then you are giving the cows a life of suffering, and then you kill them as well. So I just don't see how it is logically possible for vegans to kill more.
Because
Yeah, just to Tobias, real quick, just to clarify where we're at. It seems like part of the difference in opinion comes to a difference in interpretation of data, and I'll take responsibility for this. Normally our debates don't require studies or data. It's more about narratives. We focus on Israel, Palestine, and stuff like that. What I should have done, and what I'll do in the future, is any sources that are to be used in the discussion, we should just have them ahead of time so we could check them and just make sure we can at least agree on the numbers. Because currently where the argument is at is, Tobias, you're claiming that to be vegan, you are killing more animals because in order to grow plants, we need to kill animals. Julian's claim is, in order to feed animals, we need to grow even more plants than what we eat. So not only are you killing the animal itself, you're also killing animals by raising those plants. Your claim is that that's not the case, that more animals are killed by just eating vegan. So we're kind of stuck in a situation where
let me just explain where the problem is misunderstanding is from Julian. The problem is that the animals don't get specially produced fodder. This is the point. They are raised on meadows mainly because 70% of all usable land is only suitable to raise livestock on it. And there the majority of livestock is grown. Secondly, even in the industrial world, only a few percent of fodder is produced specially for the animal. The rest is all the waste products of the food production process. For example, if you have flour, you have the spells and the straw and all these things, and this is going to the fodder of the animals. All these waste products, and so you do not produce a lot of extra fodder for the animals. You just use the waste and what you cannot use otherwise to feed the animals and produce extra food for the people.
Can you repeat that point? Like, sorry, I missed the point a little bit.
What Tobias said is that most of what animals are eating are a byproduct of animals, of plants that are farmed for human consumption. So we will grow corn, we'll eat the corn, and the leftovers are fed to cattle, right? That's what you said, Tobias?
Yes, precisely. This is the most of the fodder.
Okay,
because
so
it's economically, it doesn't make sense otherwise.
So I saw the photo that you showed us. A lot of the food is residue. Again, not all the food, and 10% of feeding hundreds of billions of animals. And I'm going by your data, and I'm going on the minimum 10%. Of feeding billions and billions and billions of animals, when you only have 8 billion humans and you're using the crops to feed hundreds of billions of land animals, that is doing the exact same type of farming that you need to protect it, because people don't want these farms and these crops to be destroyed. And of course, they're going to do as much as they can to feed the animals shitty food, to be as cheap as possible. So they're going to give them residue and bad plants and all this stuff, of course. But they also grow a lot of food in the world for animals. We can't deny that.
Yeah,
so
but
protect that food. So you would have to agree to protect that food. You have to also kill animals. But other than that, also if we want to go about the killing animals part, and one of the main reasons of deforestation in the world today is actually making land for livestock. So one of the main reasons for deforestation, which deforestation is the main cause of one of the main cause of mass extinctions in the world, destroying a whole area of habitats. And one of the main reasons for destroying these habitats, destroying these places, is actually to clear space for animal livestock. So we're not only killing animals protecting the crops for the livestock, we're not only killing the animals for food and for the products that they give us, but we are also killing a lot of animals, deforesting a bunch of areas to actually make space for livestock. So I just don't see it in any type of logical way that vegans or plant-based diet causes more animals to die, especially considering the fact that there is a whole industry, that works on a supply and demand, and that is supplying billions of animals every single year to people's plates, putting aside the residue death that you talked about, like in the plant-based diet. So I just don't see how it is logical in any way, honestly.
Okay, if you're talking about deforestation, this is a more complex problem than just rising animals, or producing fodder for the animals. The deforestation is not only happening in the Amazonas area; it's also in for example, in Borneo, where there are deforestation for palm oil and other coconut oils and things like this. In Africa, they are deforestation because they are simply needing wood to make fire, cooking fires. and so on. And in the Amazon, it's a very complex problem. It's not that they are doing it on purpose because we have to make animals there. No, they are cutting down the forest to make money. And they do everything to make money out of it. If it's just an animal or soy they are producing there, it's just a random choice what they can sell at the moment. And basically it all goes to China, what is produced there, and not to Europe.
Yeah, but of course they make money off of it. That's how every single business works. But at the same time, we do need to look at reasons for deforestation. And if you have
the point is deforestation is happening there because of poverty and a weak state who cannot control his land and is corrupt. This is a problem. It's not the problem that we are eating some meat.
I definitely agree with you that the meat and dairy industries having so much money affecting the world is a big problem. Big companies with a lot of money affecting countries is a big issue. I agree with you on that. And you would agree with me that the meat and dairy industry is a very, very powerful industry that affects many things in a geopolitical way to allow them to make more profit. You would agree with that?
No, I would not.
Why not?
Actually, it's just the opposite. It's the profit margin in the meat and dairy business is so low that they have basically no money. The real money is made by the processing food industry, Coca-Cola, Nestle, and so on. The big 10 companies who are supplying basically the whole food chain in the world. It's just a dozen companies, 80% market share. And they are making profits like it's not a drug dealer can make in any possible way. And because they use corn for 1 or 2 cents and may sell the package of cereals for $4 or something like this. And these are profit margins you cannot imagine.
So not only is it bad for the environment, not only is it killing a lot of animals, it's also a bad business without a lot of profit. You know, another reason to stop doing it, because it's not a good profit. It's not environmental. It's killing a lot of animals. So
it is unnecessary.
Another reason, it's not even that profitable. So the people are doing it for a bad reason. You know.
Yeah, no, it's simply necessary. And to do just a normal agriculture, you simply need animals. Without animals, agriculture is simply not working. So
what do you mean
animals
by that?
have to be, because you deplete the soil and you do not replenish the soil with the manure of the animals, which is absolutely necessary, and you will not grow anything without animals. Actually,
okay,
they did this experiment in Germany, really in real life, in the First World War. They killed all the animals because, for the same argument as you said, then we have more food for the people in time of war where we cannot have supply from outside. And the result was a big starvation where 800,000 Germans died on starvation because the whole food production collapsed.
So I would agree with you that animals who eat plants are a great role in the ecosystem. You know, like for example, and also even animals who eat meat are a great, have very big importance inside of the ecosystem. For example, like you take Yellowstone National Park. A long time ago, it wasn't doing so well because there are too many plant-eating animals eating all the plants away. But once wolves were introduced and were changing the behavior of the bears and hunting some of them, then the place were able to regrow plants in some of the areas, and it shows how the balance of nature between hunters and the hunted. So I definitely agree with you on the ecological properties of these animals. But at the same time, you know, we have to remember that the planet is not built for hundreds and hundreds of billions of animals. That is a something unnatural that we have made throughout breeding. So, in many places in the world, they spill tons and tons and tons of animal manure into rivers, into the ocean, because they simply don't know what to do with them, because the numbers are so unnatural, you could say, because we breed them. So I do agree with you that some of the things that the plant-eating animals do are positive for the environment, but at the same time, you would have to agree with me that the planet is not built actually for having, all these billions of animals being fed on a constant day and shitting on a constant day, and this shit is reaching places that it shouldn't reach, and this is happening in many times. Even in America, there was a big article came out about how these pig meat industries were actually throwing the pig manure in the air because they simply didn't, with high pressure hoses, because they simply didn't know what to do with them anymore. And there was this big lawsuit, and this article actually showed how many different livestock industries actually put the animals' manure in the wrong places because there's just too much of it. Because if an animal is walking naturally outside, it eats plants, it poops, yeah, that is good for the environment. But when we have this very small area with all these animals who are not actually allowed to go other places and spread their manure, so we just create this unnatural overload of dirt and poop and things that you're not supposed to have in these amounts in such a concentrated area.
Okay, so there are first points, 2 points. First thing, we have a decline, a very steep decline in animals overall in the world, farm animals. They are much less than 50 years ago.
Yes.
And the main problem what
actually, are you sure about that?
Yes, I am very sure about it. And the point what you raised about that there are in some places too much manures is that we separated the agriculture from the animal raising. And this is really a very, very big problem today. So you have on one spot very high amounts of manure. On the other spot, you have nothing. And now you have to ship the shit through the whole country to get it to the place where it has to be. And this is for sure a real problem. But this you cannot solve by veganism. You have to solve it by having your meat from a local farm, which is producing everything. From corn to vegetables to eggs to chicken to milk and meat. And if you have all together, you have never a problem with the manure, and it's absolutely necessary. You need it.
So I think there are we could still get it. We can still get healthy ground without having these small, tight areas for the animals.
No,
but for your first point, I would say I did check the numbers, and even though there are more pigs today than there were in the 1990s, saying in the last 40 years there were more animals today, this is not what we're talking about, because we're talking about a revolution that started, about a little bit more than a few hundred years ago. But even before that, the revolution of farming. So that's when it started, and it's saying 40 years ago, it's still part of a new age, unnatural stage of breeding them. And yes, today we have a little bit less livestock than we did 40 years ago. But what about 1,000 years ago? There are a lot more. Right?
Yeah, so we had a lot more wild animals. Just in America, on the Great Plains, we had more bisons than we have cows in the world at the moment.
So
no, we had more, but not, yeah, because we have been killing all of them and taking just a few and farming them. So I just don't see how it's fair saying that we had more animals. Of course, we had more animals. We are killing them constantly while breeding a few. But as far as cows, if you take the amount of cows today in the world to the amount of cows in the world 1,000 years ago, for sure there were less. For sure there were less.
1,000 years ago, there were much less people on the world, on the earth. So sure, less people needed less cows, but this is not the point. If you see after the Second World War, the number of farm animals is declining steadily.
And what's causing that decline, Tobias?
The production is much more efficient now. We need much shorter time to get some rice to the levels that we can slaughter them. So this is the main driver.
So is it fair to say that it's less animals, but it would be probably at the expense of the conditions the animals are kept in, as well as the health of their meat, because they require hormones and maybe other artificial
yeah, for example,
supplements?
yeah, I agree in general with this, but hormones and things like this are not used in Europe, for example. They are forbidden in Europe. They are used in the US and maybe in some other parts of the world, but not in Europe, for example. And also antibiotics are forbidden in Europe. We have very strict rules for animal health and what is allowed and not allowed in the animal production. And Europe is very, very strict there.
I'm curious about what you think, Tobias, about the connection of pandemics in the history of humanity and livestock. Do you see any connection there?
Not necessarily. Some might be happening because we are living close to each other, but in general, it's not the reason.
For example, Corona came from
yes,
bats
I know, but
in the market. Wait,
from
1 second. Measles that killed millions of people are actually tracked back to cows. So it just, there's so much evidence out there, and you seem like such an educated guy. There's so much evidence out there showing the connection of a few diseases and pandemics, and that actually track it back to animals. The most recent one, COVID-19, many people say from bats, and what's the armadillo-looking animal? I forgot the name. But even before that, you had N1H1 from pigs in America, and then you had the mad cow disease that come from cows. And for you to say, I don't see any connection between diseases and livestock, I just don't see it as fair,
Yes, sure. There in the history of humankind, we are living close to each other, and it's natural that they are jumping from one species to the other. This is not to debate. But for example, the coronavirus is from bats, yeah. But it doesn't mean that it was eaten. It can also be a lot of bats are fruitarians, and they bite in the fruits and give virus and things
to the UN market. They tracked it to the market where bats were being
this is a guess. It's not that it is proven. But the main way bats transmit diseases is by urinating on everything, like rats, and this is the main driver.
Okay. I want to real quick. I want to bring us to a place of common ground. And real quick, a quick intermission for those just joining us. For those new to the channel, please like and subscribe if you like what you see. If you like this video, thumbs up. If you don't, thumbs down. Just express yourself. After each debate, we do an after party in Discord. Discord's a very cool app where we continue the conversation. I won't explain too much about what it's like, but it's worth checking out. I'm putting the Discord link in the chat right now. Join and you'll see. Once we finish this conversation, we will head to the lounge in Discord and continue the conversation there. I do want to spend the rest of the time trying to just better understand both of your positions and see where, what common ground we can reach. So, Tobias, you have expressed that, compassion is important, and you did mention that local farms are preferred. So do you consider a factory farm to be unethical in its nature?
It's problematic. But you have to see that we have to provide food for really a lot of people. And so not all people are really wealthy like we are. And so they need a cheap way of produced food. And so yeah, it is not very good for the animals, but it is already much better than 2 decades before. For example, relatives of mine had cows, and I didn't like the conditions they were raised. Today, the conditions are totally different. If you see a modern stall for milk cows, for example, it's like a hotel for them. So it's really developing in a very positive way. But there are parts where I really have also my problems with, and also especially with the quality of the meats that is coming out of these factories. But this is your choice. If you want to have the least suffering in the world for animals, you really have to find a farm where they raise the animals in a very good way. And in the best way, they even slaughter on the meadow the cow, so that it even doesn't feel anything. Yeah? This would the absolute possible way, the best way to do least harm in the world for animals. Yeah? This would perfect. So you have to search for these farms, and you have to economically support these farms. So that's more and more of this kind of farms are coming up. If you are just saying, I don't eat meat, you do not protect any animal. Not one animal is less slaughtered because you are vegan.
So, Julian, I will give you a moment to respond. Just a little bit more clarity. So, what if it's like a product that we don't necessarily need? Let's take mayonnaise, right? Mayo. And you're Belgian, so I know Belgians are considered to have some of the best mayo in the world. So it's an issue of national pride. But mayo, it's not a health food. It's not necessary. But in order to get mayo, you need to get it from chickens who almost always are in horrible conditions. So is it fair to say that consumption of a product like mayo is unethical because we don't need it and it causes a lot of harm to animals?
Actually, you can also raise chicken in a way that they really enjoy their life. This is not the point. You just have to look for it. And they are more expensive. This is also sure. But I don't think it doesn't make sense to pick on a special food item in this debate. Yeah, you don't need mayo. I don't eat mayo because I eat only meat. And mayo is mainly made from oilseeds. So it's not an animal product in
Oil and
itself.
eggs, yeah.
Oil and eggs.
Oil and eggs. So, but would you say it's justified for someone to say, even if it's someone who's not a vegan, would it be justified to be like, look, you're supporting right now chickens being tortured because you want mayo with your fries instead of just using ketchup? Like, would you consider that a legitimate claim to make to somebody?
No, not really. Because my point is there is no suffering in the world. You can try to reduce it, but you will never avoid it. And we are humans where we not only using some food and pooping it out. We are a culture. We are a society, and food is much more than just nutrients. And we have to enjoy our life as well, also as a society. And this is also an ethical part.
Thanks, Tobias. Julian, feel free to respond how you want.
Yeah. So I mean, the main points that I've heard throughout this talk is the main one being, animals will die anyways. Whether you are vegan, whether you are not vegan, animals will die anyways. And I just see like using that as an excuse to say, animals are going to die anyway, so all these other animals, fuck them, they're going to die. So people are going to die. So I'm going to drive my car very dangerously outside because, people die. And I just don't see it as a responsible mentality for humanity as a whole. Like, if we want to get better, if we want to evolve our behaviors, we have to see what are the sum of the things that I can do as an individual to protect the planet and protect animals. Because if animals die because raise plant food, then we should probably try to raise. Let's try to raise only plant food for humans, because if we raise plant food, we are killing animals. So the main point of Tobias saying animals are going to die anyways. So that's how it is. I just see it as a very problematic mentality for humanity, because we need to do a constant effort on a daily basis to minimize the amount of suffering. And if I go to the supermarket and I have two choices, I have I have a broccoli and I have meat. The broccoli, animals were killed to protect this broccoli. The cow, animals were killed to make land for the cow. Animals were killed to protect the food for the cow, and the cow itself was then killed. So if you compare the two, it's pretty easy to see that one actually comes with less violence and less killing. And we need to do a constant effort every single day to choose things that cause less damage. And I will use the example again with the car. People will die in car accidents every single day, probably. But I still should drive my car as responsibly as possible in order to minimize the amount of damage that is done. That's not saying that driving is perfect, but I'm, as a driver, trying to make the most effort to drive responsibly. And I think that's the vegan mentality. They are trying to live in the most peaceful and the most violent-free way possible, choosing things that do not mean 100% animal had to die for this. For example, meat means a cow died 100%. Broccoli means some efforts were done to protect the broccoli, but that doesn't 100% mean that directly something needed to be killed by a human for the product itself. And I think it's a big inherent difference between an industry that the whole point of the industry is to create a product out of exploited animals, compared to a broccoli industry that animals die in the production, but first, it's not 100% necessary. Not every single day, not every single time you grow broccoli, an animal has to die. And the second thing is just that it just don't make any sense to say bad things happen in the world, animals die, and then just leave it out there. It's like we need to ask ourselves as humanity, what can we do to minimize the amount of harm that we make to animals? And if we can get them out of the industry, get them out of the factories, and replace these factories with gardens, and let these animals live their life, and replace them with farms, it just, to me, feels like a much cleaner way to live, because you are not shoving all these animals in a small area, pumping them with antibiotics, maybe not in Europe, but in most of the world, pumping them with antibiotics, growth hormones, and all these things, and then say, well, animals are going to die anyways, so we're going to do all these weird and terrible things to these animals who just want to live.
I just simply can repeat.
Just, Tobias, real quick. So that did sound like a closing statement from Julian. So I appreciate that. So Tobias, you can make this you can respond. You could also make this your closing statement, and then we could head over to the after party in Discord.
Okay. My point is that you are killing 25 times more animals to produce vegan food than you produce for the same amount of animal food. This is the first point. Secondly, if you really want to reduce the suffering of animals, you have to look for the quality and not for the quantity. The quality is you go to and find a farmer who is raising animals in a way you really like, and then the animal is slaughtered on this farm in the most ethical way you can do, and then you have the least harm done in the world for all animals. And also, I must say, a vegan diet is very unhealthy. It's a malnutrition, and you really harm the people if you prevents that they get the animal products in their diet.
So, I mean, your last point was that it's very unhealthy, and we didn't get to talk about it. Maybe Adar, we can take a few more minutes to talk about the health, because it's just a shame to leave it there. Veganism is unhealthy. That's it. Look, saying veganism is unhealthy, to me, it doesn't really make sense. I've been vegan for 8 years. 8 years is a long time. I've been getting my blood test and everything is okay. But other than leave me alone, I've been a competitive athlete. I've done many good athletic things. Leave that alone. Novak Djokovic, the #1 tennis player in the world, one of the most successful athletes of modern times, owns a plant-based restaurant and also gives a lot of the credit for his success in the last 5 years to his plant-based diet. So saying a vegan diet is unhealthy, again, if you look at America, for example, and also in Belgium, the #1 reason for death in Belgium is cancer. The second one is cardiovascular disease. Cardiovascular disease comes from saturated fats and the misconsumption of food. And yeah, I mean, and there's a big connection. The number one source of saturated fats in the American diet and also in Europe actually is dairy. So dairy is actually one of the most unhealthy products in today's world. And saying that vegan is unhealthy, especially showing the amount of emerging athletes more and more every single year, as well as the #1 tennis player in the world, has been vegan for a few years.
This is simply not true. He is not vegan anymore. And he had injuries and so on. And he knows why he quit it. Also, this you are talking about this famous propaganda movie. What was the name?
Game Changers.
Game Changers. Yeah, it's completely debunked. It's completely all what they're showing there are not vegans anymore. Or was never vegans even.
So what you're saying, there are no vegan athletes exist in the world?
Yeah, there are some who try it, but they quit it very fast because they are suffering. And normally they do it at the end of their career to get some more
so 100% of the people, the athletes who became vegan, became non-vegan again?
Yes.
100%.
I have not checked for everyone.
One of the main issues that I have with this debate, one is the crazy number that vegans kill 25 times more animals than non-vegans. That makes zero sense considering how much less vegans there are than meat eaters. So I mean, that fact completely doesn't even make sense. And for you to say that 100% of the vegan athletes went back to veganism, where in Israel, for example, the person who won Ninja Warrior and the second place are also vegan. And there's just so many people that I've known, that I know personally, who are nationally ranked athletes who are vegan and have not gone back in years. So for you to say 100% of the people, also in the movie, which is not true, there are a few that are still vegan, to say 100% of them are not vegan anymore, I just, it's like the vegans kill 25% more animals. It's just these numbers and these facts that just really don't make sense. I don't have any source, and to use that as a debunking point just doesn't make sense to me. And it would be better if you did it with a logical point and not just saying they all went back from veganism without any proof, without any factual knowledge about these people's life. Most of the athletes there, I'm sure you don't follow them on a daily basis.
No, I don't follow them on a daily basis, but a lot of people do it just because people like you always come up with these examples. So the problem is that is really malnutrition, and more than 15 nutrients are missing in a vegan diet.
What type of nutrients?
Vitamins, amino acids, B12, A, D3, K2. You don't get it in plants. You don't get zinc. You don't get iron, heme iron, and so on and so on.
So,
And
so
amino acids.
again, there's this thing, this throwing these things out there. Like, for example, B12, actually, studies have shown that meat eaters also have a very high probability of having B12 deficiency. That has been shown in a lot of research lately. But also, you could get a lot of those nutrients from plants, because it doesn't make sense. You wouldn't be able to, because the animals, they get the meat that we eat from the animals, the nutrients gets to there from plants. So it just doesn't make sense to me that you will not be able to find these nutrients if you look in all the plants in the world that you are able to eat, especially in the Western world, where we can go to the supermarket and pick and choose whatever foods it is that we want to eat. So it just doesn't make, again, I've been doing blood tests for 8 years. I haven't had any deficiencies. So on a personal level, I just don't see it make sense. And again, I will take the example back to the amount of athletes that I personally know. They seem to get the amount of nutrients that they need, and just throwing not enough nutrients in the vegan diet just doesn't make sense, especially considering so many World Health Organization putting plant-based diet on the map and really advising many people to eat it. The second part is that if you look at the Western world, the health is horrible. It's probably the worst it's been ever. Yes, people are living longer, but the numbers of cardiovascular disease, cancer, diabetes, all these things are rising, especially within people who eat a lot of animal products, as you can see in America, as you can see in places in Europe, and also in Belgium. In Belgium, the number 2 cause of death is cardiovascular disease. Is that not caused by saturated fats?
No, it is not.
What is it caused by?
It's caused by insulin resistance. And insulin resistance is caused by carbohydrates. This is the point.
Actually, that's also not true. They have actually showed that the fats in your arteries and the fats in your blood system really damages how your body takes in the sugar, and that is But again, I don't want to throw these facts out there, because it's a more of a logical conversation, and you're throwing just a lot of bad information out there, especially about the insulin. It's a great example of just not telling the whole story about how our bodies are getting hurt because of saturated fats, and they actually play a major role, especially in America and also in Belgium, considering how unhealthy people are and how many people die from cardiovascular disease.
So look, I do want to wrap it up. We could continue this in Discord. The reason we focused primarily on the ethical discussion and not the health discussion was because there's a lot of science to support either claim, as we saw with the movies Game Changers, and then a full Joe Rogan episode debunking it, and then a full another Joe Rogan episode debating that debunking. There's been dozens of hours of content just on health, and there's no clear consensus. What we do know for sure is that some people are vegan and very healthy, and some people eat meat and are very healthy. So it seems like you can be vegan and be healthy. Is it possible that not everyone can be vegan and healthy? Sure.
No, it is not possible long-term to be healthy on a vegan diet.
You're saying it's impossible to be healthy?
It is impossible. Impossible long-term to be healthy on a vegan diet. I'm also for example, if you don't trust the science, because it's really confusing, the science about it, you can check for the recovering vegans, ex-vegans. There are thousands of people who are reporting all the same, how they lost their health and damaged really their health in very dramatic way on a vegan diet. And there are literally thousands just in one group who are telling all the same story. It's simply impossible.
There are also millions of people out there that have eaten animal products their entire lives, suffering from diabetes, obesity,
if they only eat meat,
and they stopped eating those products and became vegan and started feeling a lot better. So again, we could use the exact same thing and switch it. I'm just saying, do you have a better point why vegans cannot be healthy, other than saying some people became vegan and came back to eating meat? Like, that is just not enough of a point, I think.
What is more logic when you say that in one diet there are certain nutrients not existing? It's the basic logic.
So, but I still don't see how it's possible, since the animals get their nutrients from plants. That's one thing.
Simply because they have a different digestive system. Do you know how a gorilla gets his vitamin B12?
And
they are simply eating their own shit because it's produced in the column by them, and then they have to recycle it.
Since we are closer to a gorilla, since we are a lion, we do need to look for some places to get B12. I'm not saying let's eat our shit, but we can easily get B12 supplements. But other than that, you would agree that we are more similar to gorilla than any other meat-eating animal in the world, right?
No. We are closer to a wolf than to any of the other primates our digestive system.
One second. Did you say we are closer to wolves than we are to gorillas?
Yes.
Wait,
what do you mean by that?
Can you please explain that?
Yeah, so the digestive system is very closely to this of a wolf. And the gorilla is a total plant eater, which a totally different digestive system. So we are much closer to a wolf than to an ape.
Okay, so the claim is not we're not closer genetically to wolves. It's just that our digestive tract is more like wolves than it is a gorilla or even a chimpanzee.
Yes,
that's the claim.
Yes. And we have genetic studies, and this shows that 8,500 years ago, before Christ, we had even not the genes to digest any plant. We were purely carnivores, evolved over some millions of years.
So yeah, so having one person that has some, that's like saying, there was one person who was allergic to all type of plants. That doesn't say anything about the plants. The same thing with this person, one person having this weird, and like you said, it's like a different thing. It's not normal for a person to be able to eat only those type of products. But other than that, again, let's go back to the wolves and apes. Again, you're throwing something out there without a lot of backup. Genetically, we are closer to apes than we are to wolves. So it makes sense that our behaviors should be a bit closer to the apes than it is to the wolves.
No, we are hyper carnivores in our evolution.
We are hyper carnivores. You are saying that throughout history we've eaten more meat and animal products than we have plants?
Yes, we have the last
Do you have any
years.
data to back that up? It just also doesn't make sense to me, especially considering the fact that hunting back in the day was one of the most difficult jobs. So actually eating plants was a lot more sustainable and easier. Of course, in some places in the winter times and stuff, they had to hunt. But hunting was never the first choice. In the beginning, we're even scavengers. And scavengers are not hypercarnivores. And we've actually evolved over time. But saying we are an hypercarnivore, that's another one of those things that you throw out there, again, without a lot of logical sense, in my opinion, but also not a lot of scientific backup that I've seen in my life.
Actually, we have isotope analysis of the bones of the fossils, and they are showing that we were eating basically purely animal, so meat and fish. It was 70% meat and 30% fish. This is this was our evolutionary diet.
70% meat and 30% fish.
Yes, there was no plant traces found in the bones of the prehistoric humans.
Again, one of another pick and chose research that really makes no sense considering how much more available plants were.
Did you ever try to find food in nature? Did you ever try to find plant food in nature?
Again, taking a Western person and saying, have you ever tried? Actually, I have tried, but again, it's not a fair comparison, because these people who were living hundreds of thousands of years ago, they were trained and they needed it to survive. So they were very goddamn good at finding things they needed to eat. Absolutely, they were able to do it, especially in those times where their life were dependent on it.
No.
Would you agree that we eat more food today per individual than we did 100,000 years ago?
No. If you have killed a mammoth, you had plenty of food for months.
Again, you're taking one example of one animal that existed in a certain area of the world. We're not talking about a small tribe in a small. We're talking humanity.
No. You know how the world looked like 50,000 years ago. It was like the tundra.
Absolutely, but so if there were so many animals, why did we start farming them? Because it's not hard, it's not easy to go and get animals unless you are farming them. So again, logically, what you're saying doesn't make any sense, because
the reason why
it's very hard to hunt. Yeah, there are mammoths, yeah, for sure, but hunting a mammoth is very dangerous. Many people don't come back from it. It's a lot more efficient and a lot more energy efficient to actually eat plants, and you saying that what we ate was 70% meat and 30% fish, again, it's taking away the plants that have existed on the planet for millions of years, hundreds of thousands of years, that it is proven for humans to have eaten plants throughout history. So saying we ate 70% fish, 70% meat, 30% fish, it might be true for very small areas in the world. But when you look at the whole world, especially in places that are green, that have a lot of plants, I mean, it just doesn't make sense to me that people would have plants around them and would go out of the way to endanger a mission to hunt.
As I said,
again, we're having a conversation based off a different set of facts, and it's an issue. So, in future conversations, the way we'll solve this is just all sources will just need to be presented ahead of time so we can check them, because it's, Tobias, I'm not saying you're making this up by any means. It's just you're saying things that personally surprise me. Even I've never heard them; they surprise me, and it's just it's just a back and forth. You're saying one thing, Julian's saying that's not true because the facts are different. So I don't see how we're gonna make progress, regarding these sets of facts. We'll wrap it up. We'll continue this conversation in the after party. We'll let the community also share their thoughts. Maybe they have some data to support one side or the other, and we'll just hear from them. If any of you want 1 minute each for some final thoughts, and then we'll wrap it up.
Who will begin?
Yeah, I mean, I would love to say one last thing. So again, the main point that I remember from this debate is that vegans, a very small part of the population, vegans, kill 25 times more animals than most of the world's population who eats animal products. That was one of the main points, contradicting the moral standpoint of veganism, and that point on any type of logical scale just doesn't make sense that such a small population of humans, vegans, are killing 25 times more animals than the rest of the population, especially considering the amount of animals need to die for the burgers and the food. So yeah, that's all I got, I guess, for
you had a misunderstanding there. It's not that the vegans kill 25% more. The number is for 100 kilo of protein you can eat, you kill 25 times the amount of animals to produce vegetable food than to have it in animal food.
Well, again, something that doesn't make sense, because different plants have different amount of protein in them. So again, it just doesn't. It just doesn't make sense.
All good. We addressed this already. It was a misunderstanding. Fair enough. Any final words, Tobias, before we wrap up?
Yes, as I said, the most ethical way to eat is find a good farm in your neighborhood, check that the animals are in good conditions there and are slaughtered in a good way, and then have quality meat in your diet as much as you can, and then you have a healthy and ethical diet.
So we can agree on the fact that we can make an effort to minimize the amount of harm that we cause to animals, right?
Yes, I always do it every day.
Common ground, that's what we're all about. This was an awesome conversation, and I'd love to do this again. It continues in the after party. For those who have not joined the Discord yet, I'll share the link again, what you do is you join the Discord, and on the left hand, you'll see a tab that says After Party. You click on it, and you're connected with your voice and video. It's up to you. You don't need to speak. You don't need to show yourself, but it's a way to connect and listen. And in general, Discord is a place where we have conversations on a daily basis, voice conversations and text conversations. Very inspiring what's happening in our Discord. So I invite you all to join us, and we will see you there. Thank you, Tobias. Thank you, Julian. It was a great pleasure, and I'll see you in the after party.
Thank you so much.